If you were even considering moving to Florida, then this is a great video for you to watch. There are 10 different things that I think everybody needs to know before they move here to the Sunshine State. As much as you've probably heard about the great state of Florida, there are things you absolutely need to know because these could be make or break for your move here. So let's get after them. What is going on? It is Andrew Ironmonger. I own the Emerald Group here at eXp Realty. We service everybody from Pensacola to Panama City, everything in between. So cities like Destin, Fort Walton Beach, 30A, Navarre, Crestview. These are the main areas we service. So if you are planning on making a move down here or you're thinking about making a move, all of our information is on the screen. We'd love to help in however we can help. We're getting calls, texts, and emails all the time of people wanting to move here. So reach out to us however you want. And if you want to know everything there is to know about this area, hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell so that you'll be notified every single time we do a new video. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into these 10 different things that everybody needs to know before moving to Florida. I'm going to start with this one where everybody that calls us, almost, well, not everybody, but I would say about 50% of the people that are calling us from different states, different cities, planning on moving down here that we have helped with either purchasing a house or condo, etc. They ask one thing. Well, I mean, they ask a lot of things, but this is the number one on their mind. So the number one thing I want to go over is this area is extremely red, Republican, if you will, Republican, Democrat, red, blue. It leans very red, at least in our area. There are other parts of Florida that lean a little bit more blue, but for the most part, most of the state is very red. I'm not going to get into the politics of it. It doesn't matter to me, but it does matter to a lot of people. So where that comes in play is while you're driving around town in this area, you will see Trump signs still out. I know he hasn't been in office in quite a while, but it's still a big thing out here. They have done 2 different boat parades for Trump already, trying to break the world record. They just did one this last week, and if you're watching this when the video drops, they did it Labor Day 2021. Trying to break that record. I did not hear the final number if we actually broke the record or not, but my point is it leans very heavy that direction. So if that bugs you and that's like absolutely not, I cannot deal with that, then Florida might not be the best for you. Now you can look at political maps and figure out if you're leaning on the blue side or it just really bugs you. You can look at the political maps and figure out which areas are going to be a little bit more lenient that way, because they do have them. Just like in any state, there's going to be parties on both sides, but that does bother a lot of people, but it also helps a lot of people. Like I said, we've gotten a lot of calls from people in New York, New Jersey. Those are the 2 big ones, strangely enough. Some from California that they're just like, hey, I need to get out of that. Just keep in mind, if you're going to do that, one thing Floridians do not like is for you to attempt to change their government or the politics in general out here. So if you're going to come down here, just know that they don't want to change. That's fine, just like you wouldn't want them coming to that area and changing whatever. Again, not trying to get too political there, but I had to start with that because it seems to be a really big reason why a lot of people are moving out of some of these states. And that goes into reason number 2 where you might not want to move here to Florida. We are extremely patriotic out here, particularly in this little area of the panhandle of Florida. We've got a lot of great things here, and there's nothing wrong with being patriotic. I'm extremely patriotic. I'm prior military, but we love our military out here. We love the American flag with a passion. You'll see them on boats and cars and hanging on the back of Jeeps. If that's going to bug you and you're going to want to get the inkling to try to yank one down or do something crazy, do not do that here. You are going to find yourself in a very, very, very bad position. So just keep that in mind. We love our military. We love our cops, at least for the most part. And again, speaking kind of generally for this area, I do not live in South Florida. I do not live in Miami or Hollywood or, any of those other areas, Tampa. But here we love it. And I've heard it's like that for most of the state. So if seeing the American flag everywhere on our shirts, on our apparel, on our cars, our trucks, our Jeeps, our houses, if that bugs you, this might not be the best place for you. And that brings me to number 3. Generally, when you get in a high patriotic area, I would imagine, I don't know if this is like this all over the country, but you're going to have a heavier leniency on guns. We have guns. We like our guns. Floridians love love their guns. From what I can tell, they like it throughout the entire state for the most part. There are gun ranges out here. You can shoot everything to your heart's content. We try to protect our gun rights as much as possible. And they conceal. So you can have people, you might be standing next to somebody in the grocery store that has a gun on their hip. If guns scare you, or the idea that a civilian that's taken a course on gun safety and protecting themselves, if that idea scares the bejesus out of you, then probably not the best spot to move to. Particularly in our area with the heavy military presence, we've got 3 major military bases and 5 realistically within about a 100-mile span, 50-mile span really. So if that bugs you, this isn't the place for you. We can conceal, and we can also open carry depending on what you're doing. You can open carry whenever you're hunting and fishing and going to and from that. You almost never see it. In fact, I've been here 16 years now. I've seen it one time. A singular time, and so it's definitely the rare case, but we do have guns. There are going to be people carrying guns. It is a stand your ground state, which the media portrays as a license to kill sometimes. It's not the case. It's not what it is. But if you go around and do something silly, there's going to be people around with guns. That's all I'm getting at. So if you're a full-time criminal maybe moving down here, probably not the best for you, but I don't imagine you're going to be watching us on YouTube if that's the case. So that's guns. Now, the 4th thing that you absolutely need to know before you move here is figuring out where you need to live. If you choose the wrong spot for your personality and the personality of the city that you're living in, you're going to have a bad time in Florida. I promise you. And they change so quickly. They change so dramatically. Living in, even, let's just give one example, living right here in Fort Walton Beach, living in downtown versus living in Shalimar, let's say, are 2 completely different personalities. You want to be close to one of the Air Force bases, maybe you work up there, Shalimar is going to be a great spot. Downtown Fort Walton's still going to be a good spot for that for proximity, but downtown Fort Walton has a different vibe. It's got, the boardwalk, or not boardwalk, sorry, the downtown area is very dog friendly. So you're going to see dogs walking everywhere. If you don't like dogs, don't go downtown, because you're going to see one every time you're out. You're probably going to see multiple. In fact, if you stop anywhere downtown during a decently busy time, if you look around, you're going to see a dog at all times, I guarantee it, probably multiple. So we're very dog friendly and things like that. But it's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at is where to live is extremely important. Even on 30A, the different beaches have an entirely different personality depending on which beach you're on. So you need to make sure that you're getting in with the lifestyle and personality of exactly what you want. So if you want to be in the midst of all the fun and the tourism and shopping, and you're the kind of person that just wants to go out to eat all the time, you don't want to keep food in your fridge, you just want to be able to pop over for dinner for a few minutes, Destin is a great place. Near the outlets in Miramar Beach are a great place for you, but Crestview might not be. So just know that going into it. If you do need help, if you are moving down here, that's exactly what we do. We've got specialists in every single city, like I said, from Pensacola to Panama City and everything in between. So if that sounds like you, just make sure you let us know that, because we need to match the area not only to the proximity of what you want, like your job or what have you, and the things that you want to do, but also we need to match the area of the city to you, or you're going to have a pretty bad time. Now, speaking of living here, this is a heavy transient state. A lot of people move down to Florida for a short time. They're trying it out. They're just testing it. And then maybe they get to the wrong area and they're not excited about living there because they didn't match their personality with the personality of the city. I can't describe it. I have lived all over. And the best way I can describe it is it's exactly that. It's a personality. And if you don't match yours with theirs, I mean, I've been all over the country. I've even been outside of the country. I've lived outside of the country, inside of the country, in I think about 12 different states, give or take. This area is definitely unique when it comes to that. So please know that going into it, it's very important, or you might not enjoy your time here. Now, let's get into something that a lot of locals love and hate. It's a love-hate relationship when it comes to tourism. If you're going to live on a coastal city in Florida, you're going to deal with tourism on some level. People have heard of names like Pensacola, Panama City, and Destin. Those are 3 big ones. But that doesn't mean that Fort Walton Beach and Navarre and 30A doesn't get a ton of tourism traffic. They do. Tourists are going to be a part of it, and we love them. We really, this goes that love-hate thing. We love that they're here. They're great for the economy. We love meeting new people. Floridians as a whole are generally extremely friendly. For the most part, I've heard certain cities down south are not as much. Don't crucify me for that. But for the most part, we're very friendly out here. We like meeting new people, but the tourism comes with Well, they come with traffic, and they come with the local eateries that we like going to are now busy, and there's lines everywhere. We can't just walk right up and get a table anymore, and sometimes we're having to wait a little bit for some of the places that we're so used to. So for 4 to 6 months out of the year, it's a little bit hectic, and then the other 4 to 6 months it slows down again. The snowbirds start coming in when the weather gets a little bit cooler, and things change. But at the end of the day, tourism disrupts things a little bit. If that's going to be a deal killer for you, this isn't it. Or you need to move a little bit further north, in our case, or depending on what part of Florida you're in, you need to get away from the coastal city so that you can still be 10, 20 minutes away and get a lot of house for your buck, and there's a lot of benefits to that. And then you're able to come visit the stuff when you want to on your terms. Again, kind of going back to that personality thing that we were talking about, or that I was mentioning not too long ago. All right, now let's get into one that we get a lot of calls on this, and it's all over the news right now because we're right in the middle of the season, and that's hurricanes. Hurricanes are real. They're damaging. They're destructive. They bring a lot of rain, and rain brings flooding, and there's a lot. Okay, you're living on a coastal city. You're going to get hit. I promise you. You live here. If you live here any decent amount of time, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hard. You're going to see damage, and there are people willing to help. That's one of the really cool things about Floridians as a whole is we will jump right up and help as much as possible. It doesn't hesitate. Even the one that just hit us, didn't hit us, hit Louisiana. As soon as that happened, Facebook groups started popping up of people trying to help. We've got 2 semi-trailers going out right now that we've been coordinating with, just full of stuff. People are very willing to help, but if you're getting hit, it's not exactly fun. But you don't need to be afraid of the hurricanes. We've got hurricane videos. We'll put it up top in one of those little card things. You'll see a little gray thing pop up. If you guys want to check out those videos to get a more in-depth, I'm going to go over just a little bit of it right here. But at the end of the day, my point with this is you don't need to be afraid. You need to be prepared. If you're prepared, everything's fine. Everything's going to be good. You're going to have your water, your generator, all that stuff. If you wait until the last second to do this, which a lot of people do, to fill up their cars and get everything ready and go get water and go get fuel. I think I just said fuel, but you get my point. Get all of your supplies that you need to, and you wait until the last second, it's going to be gone. You remember when COVID hit and all the toilet paper was gone, and it was like this big thing, where's all the toilet paper? That's exactly like that with all the things that you need for a hurricane, except booze. Strangely enough, booze and beer is pretty abundant to find still, which is so weird. I actually sometimes wonder if these stores are stocking that, but not stocking the other stuff that we need. I don't know. But my point is you don't want to wait until the last second. Make sure you're prepped for it. Take all of that off of your plate. And then this way, if you get the evacuation order, listen to it. If you are in a zone that needs to evacuate, get out, go. It's okay. If you have the means to do so, not everybody does. I understand that. But if you do, great. If not, find somebody who will take you, find a friend, split a hotel cost, whatever you got to do if it's going to get that bad, which is very, very rare. I've stayed here. Like I said, I've been here 16 years. I've been here through all sorts of hurricanes, and some of them, these tropical storms, hurricanes, some of them feel just like a quick wind coming through. I have slept through more of them than I can count because a lot of them happen at night. Most of the time, they're not a big deal. Every once in a while, they are. And just note that if that does happen, your house starts getting torn down, people are going to run to help you. We had, if you watch that hurricane video, we talked about one of our agents that her house was right on the water, her dock, and everything was flooding, and her entire ground floor was flooded. And they immediately had to get out and run through this flood. And a neighbor was so quick to help them. That's how us Floridians are. Several years ago, I had a neighbor, tree fell down. It was kind of after most of the storm had gone down. Tree fell down into what I assume was like their living space right in the front. It wasn't a big tree. It did not collapse the roof. They were fortunate in that. I mean, this thing was probably only 20 feet tall. It just did a little bit of damage, but I immediately ran out, jumped, started running over there through the water. There was this little dip in there, so I was in about knee deep running over there. And that's nothing on me. There were 3 or 4 other neighbors that did the exact same thing. Like we were all just on it. And this isn't something, it's not like we heard it or anything like that. We just happened to be looking out, and that's how quickly people are willing to help. And so we went over there. Luckily, nobody was home, but that's kind of the Floridian way. So bottom line with all of this, if hurricanes just terrify you and you're just like, that's not me, I'm not doing it, I'm not playing that game, well then Florida might not be for you, because if you live here long enough, you're going to get hit. But if you do everything you need to do, everything's going to be fine. All right, now let's leave hurricanes alone and let's get on to another facet of the weather. The ninth thing you need to know before moving to Florida is our heat can be brutal. I am not here to sugarcoat anything. It can be bad, especially during certain months. It's humid, it's muggy. You get done, you get ready to go out for the day and go to work, and you're showered up and you're ready to go, and you step outside and you just have this glaze of sweat starting to fill already. And that can start as early as 10, 11 o'clock in the morning and basically go that way all the way until 5 or 6 at night. Sometimes even later on in the night, you'll be out maybe at a tiki bar having a nice drink, which is great, but it's going to be hot. Now, most places have fans and things like that, but that's not the point. The point here is the heat can be brutal. You need to stay hydrated, especially if you're going to be out on the water, doing water sports, doing water activities, just being out in the sun all day. Make sure you have your sunblock ready if you're going to be out for more than a few minutes and you're fair-skinned like I am. I keep some. It's crazy the amount of sunblock I buy. I keep the spray and the lotion in every one of my vehicles. Well, both of my vehicles make it sound like I have a lot. In my vehicles, I keep them at my house. I keep them in my office. This is just in case one of them runs out. I need to have a spot to have it so I don't have to make a quick pit stop because if not, I will look like a lobster 6 months out of the year. We don't want that. That sun it's close, okay? And it's baking down on us. So make sure you're taking precautions. Make sure you're staying hydrated. I know it's a good time when you're out on the water and out on the boat and enjoying the day and having a few cocktails, having a few drinks, a few brews, whatever you're into. But you need to make sure you're mixing that with the water so you don't fall out, if you will. If you're working out in the sun all day, same thing. Make sure you're hydrated, getting coconut water, Gatorade, whatever is going to make you as hydrated as possible. So if the heat is that's something you just can't deal with, well, then maybe Florida's not for you. But for the most part, you're leaving your house, you're leaving your condo, you get in your car, you crank the AC, you drive to your destination, you're sitting out in the heat just long enough to walk across the parking lot, then you're inside a nice cool restaurant or underneath a cool fan if you're having drinks on the water or anything like that. And so realistically, most of the time you don't really notice. I mean, you'll notice it, I guess, but it's not going to be a huge factor. It's really only going to be a huge factor if you're out in the sun all day. That's when it really starts beaming down on you. But I'll tell you what, you get used to it very, very, very quickly, strangely enough. So that's my little spiel on heat there. If it's a deal killer for you, there's nothing we can do about it. All right, get into my last one, number 10, the one I personally dislike the most. And that is wildlife, or critters, if you will. I actually don't mind most of the wildlife. I really don't. But there's one in particular that I can't stand. I hate them. And that's roaches, or palmetto bugs is what they politely call some of them. These suckers can be this big. They've got wings and an exoskeleton so tough that you can beat this thing with a baseball bat and it's going to just fly away, okay? Now, I'm exaggerating there because I dislike roaches that much. But it is what it is. They're here. As long as you're getting your house sprayed for bugs, you're not going to have them, or you're not going to see them at all. You've got mosquitoes too. That's a big thing out here. I've got a creek right behind my yard at my house, and so mosquitoes were a really big thing. The previous house I lived in before then, I never really saw them. I never really got eaten up by them. So I eliminated this by just they're called Spartan tubes. I found them on Amazon. There's probably some horrible mixture inside that you shouldn't touch or whatever, but you just fill this thing with water, hang it on your fence. It's good for like 2 acres or something crazy. I've got like 3 of them out there just because, well, they came in like a pack of 4. I think I have 2 of them out there. But my point is, I've never seen a mosquito since. So I moved in, I've got a pool and I've got a creek and I'm about 1/8 of a mile from the ocean. So I am in mosquito territory and I don't see them. Now, I don't know if they're just making them go to my neighbors or what, but I don't deal with them. So you can definitely eliminate some of these things. Some of the other critters, if you will, that you've got to worry about are snakes. We've got them out here. I've never really seen one other than garden snake and a couple water moccasins or not water moccasins, water snakes rather, in my pool. But I mean, they're easily scooped out with the little thing, but they're out there if you're going to be doing anything out in the wilderness of Florida, right? We're a pretty flat state, but if you are out in, the wooded areas, you have a higher chance of seeing them. And bears, we see bears all the time on our rings, okay? Those little ring doorbell things or the cameras in general. But I've never heard of one attacking somebody ever, like not a single time in this area. They go through our trash and that's about it. When I first moved into the house I live in now, I became the new bear thing. I guess I was eating something that nobody else was. I don't know. The bear was like, oh, it's a nice feast here. So I would wake up and my trash would be all in the road, and I'm right on the corner too. So it just demolishes like 3-way road of just all of my trash. And I'm like, what is going on here? And finally one of my neighbors said, oh, I caught him on my ring. It's the neighborhood bear. He's going through your stuff. He did that for a couple of days and then he has never touched it since. So I don't know if I cleaned up my diet or what happened, I don't know, but he doesn't want my stuff anymore. Point is, when you see them, I actually turned the corner one time and he was out there and he just kind of like looked at me. We both looked at each other. I had a bag of trash and I was like, what's gonna go? He wasn't that big. He was maybe about to my hip or so whenever he was on all fours, and he just sort of got up and walked off, just like nonchalant, just kind of like did like a half run and walked off. So I've never heard of them attacking anything. That's something to consider. And then wildlife, marine wildlife, okay? If you're out on the beaches, this is a thing. If you see a purple flag, it's gonna be accompanied by either green, yellow, red, or 2 reds. Those are the flags that we've got. Green means everything's good. I'm not gonna go into the flags, but my point is, when you see the purple one, that means there's wildlife that has been spotted. That's jellyfish, that's stingrays, sharks. I don't know for sure if they do it for dolphins, but it means either somebody saw something or they're expecting them to be in the area, so just be aware of where you're at. Jellyfish generally go in clumps. I've never seen one out here. I know for a fact they're out there. I can't say I've never seen one. I've never seen one at the beach. I have seen them when I've gone on like dolphin tours and different trips like that, out a little bit further out. And then sharks, you'll see videos of them, fishermen catching them. You'll see videos of people up at the pier and they're swimming right by people. I know that there are shark attacks. I know that's a thing some people are worried about, but I've never heard of them happening out here. In fact, I think there's only like 3 shark attacks a year in Florida, and we're like the top shark attack state or something like that. Maybe it's like 7 or something, but for the amount of people that are on the beaches, that's an insanely low number. It's not their natural thing to do, to go after people. In fact, sometimes they get beached and the people literally pull them into the ocean. You see it flailing around and they don't try to bite them. Maybe they've got their teeth out or what have you, but they'll literally drag them right back into the beach. I don't suggest that personally, but you'll see videos on it. If you look for them out there, there's a bunch of them out there. Now let's talk about alligators. Another question we get asked all the time in the comments down below, which by the way, we love talking to you guys. So if you want to put a comment down below, whatever you think of Florida, if you have any questions, what have you, put it down there. We love talking to you guys. It's really awesome. But talking about gators, some people seem to be really worried that they're going to be all over around here. You hear these crazy stories. Keep in mind, guys, the media is going to do any story that sounds outrageous, okay? Because that's what gets clicks. So all these alligators that you see, the crazy things that they do, it does happen, but I've never really seen one other than there's one at a golf course here in this area. He's not very big. He's maybe 3 feet long, and he just sort of relaxes. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't go anywhere. It just sort of, you'll see him sitting on the side sometimes of one of the water traps. Most of the time he's in the water. That's the only one I've seen actually out and about. The only other ones I've seen are whenever we go to some of the restaurants here. There's one in our area here called Fudpuckers, I think it's called, and they actually have it's a job called an alligator handler. They generally give it to like a 15, 16-year-old kid, first job sort of thing, and they walk around with this alligator. It's no bigger than like the length of my arm. They'll have him there. It'll be like a little band around its snout. It's not tight, but it's so that they can't, they're babies, right? So you don't want them gnawing on anybody. They just walk around and kind of let people pet them and touch them and all of that great stuff. But actually being out in the public, almost never see them. So when you see one of those videos of those monster dinosaur looking alligators, I don't know where that's at, but I've never seen it. So I've been here 16 years. It should say something. And I travel the entire area as a realtor, like a lot, and I never see them. So at least in this area, they're not prevalent. Maybe it's more down south. I'm not 100% sure, but that's gators as a whole. So those are the 10 things you need to know before moving to Florida. Before you go, I just got to let you know, I have lived all over. I've lived in 2 different countries. I've lived all over the states, probably 14 different states, and in multiple locations in some of those states. And I'll tell you what, this is where I decided to hang my hat. This is where I'm living. I love it here. I absolutely love it. I know a lot of these are cons. I know that some of these are scary. Some of these are a little bit iffy, but every place has its downfalls, right? This is the place, at least for me. It's not going to be for everybody, but the people are so friendly. The atmosphere is so cool. We've got the best beaches on the planet. I have gone, you name one of those like really nice areas that you see, our beaches are better, I think. At least the sand is. I love our sand is powder. I mean, it's powder. It's just, it's amazing. The water is this beautiful emerald green color, part of the reason why we named this real estate company the Emerald Group. I just love the color of it. About 9 months out of the year, of course, sometimes it does, get a little bit rough, or not as pretty as what I should say. But it's just so beautiful out here, and there's so much to do. There's so much different personality. There's so many cool new people to meet. I just couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So don't let any of these things scare you too bad. If it's a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker. Nothing I can do. But if you you can overlook some of this, I'm telling you, most people that move down here, they absolutely love it. Takes them a little bit. They get all settled in. They give us a call and they're like, this area is amazing. These people that have never been here, this area is amazing. So that's just my little spiel on that. I hope that none of these scare you too much. And if you are moving down here, please keep in mind that's what we do for a living. We'd love to help. Let us know if you have any questions. See ya.